The following program is a PodcastOne.com production.
From Hollywood, California, by way of the Broken Skull Ranch, this is the Steve Austin Show.
Give me a hell yeah.
Hell yeah. Now, here's Steve Austin.
Scott Dawson and Dash Wilder have a hell of a match with, who's against Johnny Gargano and Tomasino Ciampa.
Tommaso Ciampa.
Tommaso Ciampa. I'm sorry to get his name wrong. It's funny, I heard that name in 2011 when I was running Tough Enough, and all these years later to see him over at NXT kicking ass. Tremendous match. I was talking with Wade Keller the other day. We were breaking down SummerSlam, and he had mentioned he'd watch that pay-per-view. And all of a sudden, Scott, I believe it was you that sent me something on Twitter. We started following each other, hooked up with Dash, and then all of a sudden, here we are talking. But it was good to see that guy still paying dues and finally make it down there. I'll tell you what, when I watched that match, off the charts. I started watching this match because Wade Keller, let me blow a little smoke up you guys for a little second. Let me shine you up. Get some heat in a little bit. I didn't know what to expect during this match. I know Wade knows a thing or two about a good match if he sees one, and he said this was a badass match, one of the best he's seen in a long time, the way you guys built this thing. So he had set the expectations real high. Start off watching the match. Guys start working the body part right off the bat. I dug that. And then what I liked about the match was just the layout of the match. Started off working the body part. You guys, vicious, mean. You have a mean streak. Some of the key components I always talk about in being a good, effective heel, it's just having a mean streak, and that's what you guys got. You didn't pander to the crowd. You're not begging for approval or trying to elicit a response that's not there. On the other end of the spectrum, your baby faces. I mean, those two guys worked their asses off. I always preach fire. Those guys had tremendous fire, and they sold like crazy, as did you guys. A lot of stuff in play here, man. Manipulation of the referee. I don't know that referee's name. Give him a shout-out for me. He did a phenomenal job.
Drake Hurts.
Pulling on that first hot tag and the second hot tag. A lot of things going on there. Also like the employment of whether you were sending someone in, Scott, or from a headlock position, a tag and dash in. There was so much teamwork in this thing. It was very refreshing. So let me get back to the match. Started watching this match. I said, okay, this is good work. And then I started smiling because I started seeing a lot of things that you don't see anymore in tag team wrestling. And then towards the end, it builds to a tremendous finish. Great finish. I was laughing my ass off. And I was laughing my ass off because I was so entertained to see such high-level work because I'm a huge tag team fan. And I digested the match for a little bit, and then I went back and watched it again. And here's the thing. Watching this match, to me, I picked up a few things, such as setting up for Scott the first DDT off a punch, and then getting the DDT, but then setting up with the punch, going for the DDT, but Ciampa, if I'm not mistaken, reversing out of it. You in the submission. Dash comes and makes the save.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of key things there. And again, drawing the referee, the one hot tag, pulling the guy off the apron, and then feeding on the hot tag, going into the comeback. It was an awesome match. And it was kind of like I watched Breaking Bad and I watched Walking Dead. When you watch those shows, if you're sitting there texting on your phone or trying to peruse the internet, you'll miss something. Same thing with this match. You had to stay glued to the screen to make sure you caught all the detail work. And there was a lot of details in this match. So, swig of beer, I enjoyed the hell out of it. Now, based on your recommendation, I watched the 2 out of 3 falls with you guys working against, I guess, American Alpha.
Yep.
Jason Jordan?
Jason Jordan
and Chad Gable. Same thing from those guys. Obviously, great amateur backgrounds. Sold like hell for you. Jordan could have sold that leg a little bit more on the apron, but still, I mean, the same thing. Those guys had great fire. Let's talk a little bit about you guys now that I've been rambling and tell you how good you are. Scott, you broke in about 2004, right?
Yep. Right after high school.
And I saw that you're trained by the Maestro, and I said, well, who's the Maestro? Because that's more regional. I've been out of the system for a little bit, and I saw his deep ties into a lot of NWA stuff old school stuff that I figured maybe you pick up along the way from that guy, because, again, high-level stuff that I don't even see being employed. I dare say I'm not trying to put heat on the guys, on you guys, but what you guys are doing right now is so high-level. I'm not seeing this on the main roster. Tell me about your break-in period with Maestro.
I think, I broke in with him, like you said, in 2004, and he helped me out a lot, and he preached to me a lot of the old school style. But then also I was trained by George South as well in Charlotte, and he comes from the NWA territory, and he worked with Flair, he worked with Arn, he worked with Tully, and worked with all those guys. And man, if I messed up in the ring, or if he even saw me putting together a match in the back, he would criticize me, and he would beat me down and make sure that I felt like crap because I wasn't calling it in the ring. So coming from that background, it allowed me to think on my own and think on my feet. And also, since I was about 3 years old, I was a huge wrestling fan. I can just vividly remember seeing Gordon Soley interviewing Ric Flair. And that was when I lived in Stone Mountain, Georgia. And that kind of wrestling is what makes me a fan. And there's a lyric, I'm sure you know what it is. It's called "I'm not a walk behinder, I'm a new note finder." And I feel like a lot of guys, they're so entrenched with the product today that they see the reactions that people are getting. So it's easy to follow that. It's easy to do the same thing. But for me, like, I want people to remember me for being different. So if I'm doing the stuff that nobody is doing anymore because it's not 1984, then the people will remember that match. You know what I mean?
Well, and I like, just from the T-shirt, no flips, just fists. Dash, tell me a little about you coming in, because Scott, you're 32. Dash,
Yep.
You're 31?
29.
29. You broke in 05. Tell me a little about your training background, because I couldn't do any research to find out where you came from, because, you guys were made for each other. I want to hear where you come from and how you guys put this thing together.
That's a pretty funny story, actually. I was never officially trained. I came from a really poor family, so we couldn't afford to do wrestling training, anything like that. So honestly, I watched wrestling as much as I possibly could. I read the books, like any autobiography that came out, just to get a little bit of inside information. I would watch it, and I studied it so much. I trained myself to get to the point where I could get in the ring and not be a danger to anybody. But luckily, being from North Carolina, being from the South, that we had so many guys like the Rock and Roll still coming around. George South still came around. We had these guys that could take you under their wing, and they could teach you everything you needed to know just by watching and listening to the crowd. So, I spent a lot of time down at NWA Wildside / Anarchy, where AJ Styles is from. So I learned a lot of different stuff there, and I just kind of picked it up as I went along, and somehow...
You here?
Yeah, somehow, some way.
A little backyarder, he made it.
So how did you end up just getting a start? Because now, how long have you been in the ring? 9-10 years?
Yeah, almost 10 now. So there was a really, really small independent federation, where I was from. Small crowds, like nobody that had really been like George or anybody like that. But they told us that if we came to the show and set up their ring for them and set up their chairs for them, that whatever time was left over before doors opened, we could get in the ring and train. And there was like 3 or 4 of us real close friends who would go set up all their stuff for them just to get that hour or two of ring time. And eventually, okay, you guys can start on our shows now. And then we just started reaching out as much as we could. One of the first out-of-state bookings I ever got was for Wildside. I emailed Bill Behrens, and I said, I've read a lot about Wildside. I've read a lot about the guys that you have had come through there, and I want to come down and I want to wrestle for you. And he got back to us and said, yeah, come on down. And that was probably one of my best learning experiences, just getting to go down there and listen to those guys and watch them. And I soaked it all up as much as I could.
So you guys both in North Carolina now, but Scott, you said earlier you was in Stone Mountain, Georgia.
Yeah. Is
that where you first started out?
No. I was only in Stone Mountain, Georgia until I was about 5 years old.
Okay.
So my dad moved around a lot as far as working. He worked at different power plants and stuff, so he just moved around. And Stone Mountain, Georgia was just one of the places we made a quick stop in.
Hey, going back to your formative years, Dash, you're talking about setting up chairs and stuff like that just to get a little ring time before the show started, and then Scott coming up the way you did. I don't want to ask you about today's numbers, but back in the day when I first started, when they were just beating the crap out of me in Dallas, Hills coming in to get some heat on me, I don't even know if I was getting paid for that. And 2 months of that, and I headed down to USWA working for Jerry Jarrett. And, that was a weekly territory. We was in the same towns over and over again. And, pretty much my paydays were anywhere between $15 and $20 a night. You're making 400-mile round trips, man. I was starving. Coming up the way you guys did, what was the money situation like that when you guys coming up, 10, 15 years behind me?
It was about the same.
Yeah.
That's the crazy thing. It was about the same.
On a good night.
Yeah, on a real good night, we might get $20 and a hot dog. I don't know. I think I was a bit naive at first. I just loved wrestling so much. I knew what I wanted to do, and I knew I had everything going against me. I was not what you call a body guy, and I'm about 5'10", scratching the surface of 5'11", and so I knew that finding money was going to be hard. So I just wanted to get into wrestling as much as I could. And then when I realized a little bit of value was coming with my work, then I could ask for a little bit of money. But down in North Carolina, there's no athletic commission. There's nobody governing that state. So anybody, any old, redneck from North Carolina can pick up and get a wrestling ring and run a pawn shop, run a flea market or anything. So they could just hire, or they could quote unquote hire guys to work for them, and they just come in and do it for free. So it was a little bit harder in North Carolina to grab some money. But yeah, I just did whatever I could to make the most out of my situation.
Well, Dash, was that the same for you? Were you working a side job to help support your wrestling?
Oh yeah, I worked a few side jobs at the same time because I knew that at that point wrestling was not going to pay the bills. But I looked at it kind of like you're making an investment in yourself. It's just like when a doctor goes to school. For 6 to 8 years, they're losing tons of money, tons of debt. But when they finally get that degree, they finally get that job, it's all worth it. So I figured I could use the knowledge as currency. That's our money, like picking up this knowledge that we're getting. And when we got to WWE, that would be the final product where we get to finally make money and it all pays off for us.
Hey, man, I remember I've told my story many times. I was 7 or 8 years old, and I was sitting on the floor in Edna, Texas. My mom was reading a magazine behind me, and I was watching Houston wrestling. Dusty Rhodes was bleeding like a stuck pig inside that ring. It was a Sam Houston Coliseum in Houston, Texas. Security guard had a sidearm on. He was slowly walking around that ring. Nobody was doing anything. Everybody was hoping Dusty was going to come out of this bloodbath that he was in. And, man, I was so captivated. I looked over at my mom, and I said, Mom, the security guard had a gun, right? I said, Mom, why don't that security guard help Dusty? And she just kind of rolled her eyes and went back to her magazine. She didn't get it like I did, so I had the fever. So what turned you guys onto the business at an early age? Because you guys are young now. What got y'all started watching the business?
Well, I'd watched it. My dad loved Ric Flair. I mean, he was enamored. He still is. He enamored with Ric Flair, and so I was always a Ric Flair fan. And I grew up with the Crockett's. That's what I grew up with. I watched a little bit of the WWF, but I was the blood and the guts of the Crockett's is what turned me on to it. But I distinctly remember, even as much as I loved the Crockett's and NWA and stuff like that, I distinctly remember the moment that I looked at my mama and said, like, I want to be a wrestler. And it was King of the Ring 93. And I watched Bret Hart wrestle 3 of the greatest matches I've ever seen in my entire life. And through that whole pay-per-view, man, he told this incredible story. Like, he went in first with Razor Ramon, had a little bit, his fingers were broken down. Went into the ring with Mr. Perfect, his ribs started breaking down, and he limped to the ring with Bam Bam Bigelow. His fingers taped up, his ribs, they're cracked. He goes into the ring with a 300-pound monster, and he just gets heat put on him the whole match, makes small little comebacks, but keeps getting shut down. Finally, at the end of the match, Luna Vachon comes in, nails him with a chair, 1, 2, 3. We got the reverse decision from the ref. They restart the match. He comes off the top with a victory roll, 1, 2, 3, and I jumped up from my couch, and I said, Mama, that's what I want to do. That's what I want to do for a living. That's what I wanted to be and all I could think about through school was wrestling. Honest to God, like, I was really good in school, but all I could think about was being a professional wrestler. That's it.
And, the thing about it, you mentioned Ric Flair. He's my favorite pro wrestler of all time. But when you talk about the grit of what the Crockett's were doing back then in NWA, that's my favorite period of wrestling. I love the Attitude Era. I love what I did. That was fun. But when I go back as a fan, if I'm doing cardio, man, it's mid-'80s NWA stuff, Mid-South Power Pro, and it's that grit. And when you speak about a guy like Bret the Hitman Hart, one of my all-time favorite guys, and you just vividly remembering those 3 matches back from that year. And that was the thing about Bret, telling complex stories, being logical, and just setting the tone. And it was total realism. And that's a big part of what I think you guys do. It's a little faster pace because right now it's 2016, but it's that same grit, laying stuff in, nothing fancy, just good, solid stuff. Dash, what about you? When you started watching the business, what floated your boat? What hooked you?
Pretty much the exact same thing, but I didn't watch it with my mom. My granny was a huge wrestling fan because Asheville, where I'm from, used to be a hotbed for wrestling. So they'd come to the buildings there, and they'd come to Greensboro and all that, and she would go to every single show, and she had just this library of VHS tapes. It was unreal how many old wrestling shows she had, and she would just, when we came over, she'd put one of them in, just let us run wild. So she would just go cook, make sweet tea, whatever she was doing, and just leave us. And my brothers would watch it a little bit, not as much as me. I would just be in front of the TV just entranced, like just completely soaked in, lost in it. And I just never grew out of it. Like, my brothers would watch it, but they weren't as into it. They would move on, and eventually they just stopped watching. But the more I watched, the more hooked I got.
The same thing with me. My brothers and my sister would come in there and they go, "Man, what is this stuff? I said, let's watch something else." I said, "No, man, it's only an hour long." This is back in. And I said, "Let me watch a show, and then when I get done, you guys can watch whatever you want." Dash, talk to me about your granny, because grandparents, that older generation, holy smoke, you talk about super fans. Here's a quick story for you. One time I think it was Nashville, working at the fairground. Tojo Yamamoto, the very famous wrestler turned manager, big as a minute. I was working in the ring with somebody. I think Tojo was my manager. And, man, he had gotten some heat. I swear to God, this lady had to be about 80 years old. And they were sitting in those folding wooden chairs with those slats. And Tojo is as wily of a veteran as he was a little bit older at that time. And that old lady had snuck up behind him before security could do anything, whacked him right over the top of the head with that. And those wooden chairs, those things are a shoot. I mean, like a folding steel chair, people always say, "Those things hurt?" Oh, yes, they really hurt. But those folding wooden chairs weigh about 30 pounds. So how instrumental was your granny? Because you can't tell them it's a work.
Oh, no, she was she probably hit a few people with chairs. Like, she was more into it than I was. Like, she would be sitting down, like it would be me and her glued in front of the TV when she wasn't cooking for us or whatever, and she would yell at the TV. Like, and this is my granny. She was probably 70 years old at the time, cussing at the TV, getting more pissed off than anybody you could imagine. It's just, so I get more into it. I watch her, and then I start getting mad about it, and so I seen it through her eyes, and I wasn't just a little kid, but now I'm seeing it through an adult's eyes. I'm like, yeah, she's right. So she gets me worked up, and I get that much more invested in it.
And then, just back in the day when the business was a lot more protected, and the way you guys work, you guys kind of really keep your focus in the ring. Will you give the crowd some acknowledgement? Yeah, you will. And going back with your last match against Ciampa and Gargano, a couple of times they'd hit that second turnbuckle after they ran you guys out. That's embracing the crowd, the crowd in a correct way. They're not pandering. They're not begging. Another thing, I love the way you guys aren't afraid to take a powder. Jesus Christ, no one wants to take a powder anymore. But you guys do, and you use it effectively. I credit that also with the fact that down there at NXT, they're giving you time to do that. And, man, the crowd gets a chance to digest what you're doing. You guys are, and again, one of the things I like so much about you, they call it tag team wrestling. You guys use so much teamwork within the 5-second count of tagging in or just coming in to break something up. Going back to you guys' formative years, high school athletics, did y'all play sports? I know you're wrestling junkies, but are you playing organized sports?
Yeah, so we grew up together in in Asheville for a while, and we knew each other and we hung out. And I moved away and went to this little town called Whiteville, North Carolina, and I went to school there. Played high school football, and I played basketball there too. In my senior year, I was playing high school football with our rival. They chop blocked me right in my knee, tore my ACL. They didn't get it fixed then, but I kept playing sports, and about 8 months later, I was playing basketball, just went up for a jump shot. Everything in my knee exploded. Everything. I mean, it swelled the size of a damn watermelon in a matter of seconds. So, so after that, my whole sports days were over. They were behind me, and I knew what I wanted to do. My ultimate goal was to wrestle, and I love the athletics and I love the competition of sports, but professional wrestling is where I wanted to be. Same for me. Like I started out in like elementary school years playing every sport I could, football, baseball, wrestling. But then like each year, like I became less and less interested. And like the only sport I stuck with all the way to high school was wrestling, because I swore that it was going to help me when I made the transition to professional wrestling, because that was, like I said, the be all end all. That was the goal. That was where I was going to be. So I was like, man, if I can get great on the mat, I can be technical wrestler, I can have this explosive movements, I can use this when I go to professional wrestling. So that was the only sport that I stuck with. And now we're taking powders.
The Steve Austin Show. The Steve Austin Show.
Guys, Father's Day is just around the corner, and I know the perfect gift he didn't know he needed, but trust me, he needs this. And I'm talking about Meter. Meter is a sleek, smart meat thermometer that guarantees the perfect cook every single time. Keeps an eye on the food and lets him know when that juicy chicken, mouth-watering steak, or award-winning brisket is ready to come off the grill or out of the oven. You'll never under or overcook your meat again, so go ahead and delete that food delivery app. Meter gives you a countdown for the cook so you can spend time with the family, kick back, and have a beer while Meter watches your food. You'll know exactly when to take the food off the grill or when it's ready to chow down. Super simple, super easy, perfect results. Now, your boy is much more suited to do the party hosting. You know, I get to chatting and regularly overcook the meat. Like, don't put me on barbecue duty. But this can get me back on barbecue duty, back in the good graces of my guests and giving them delicious meats because it's coming out at the perfect time. And to my point, I just got a smoker. It works in that too. Works on the grill, the smoker, the oven, the air fryer, the rotisserie oven, sous vide cooking, literally anywhere. Comes with cloud service. You can have limitless range, so you can still check on the cook while you watch TV or run to the store for some more ingredients. Monitor your turkey, steaks, prime ribs, and chicken in the app, so this way you can relax and pretend you're doing a whole lot more than you are. This is the perfect gift and cooking tool for the dad in your life to level up his barbecue game. So shop now at Meter.com for a limited deal, a special Father's Day engraved Meter bundled with some other awesome accessories. Barbecue season is coming up. Get dad grilling and shop at Meter.com. That's MEATER.com. Get grilling.
The Steve Austin Show. The Steve Austin Show.
Scott, I got to ask you something. I love the way you guys, both of your styles complement each other, and you work as a unit out there, a true tag team. Scott, through watching your base of work, when you saying you got your knee torn to shreds on a basketball court, out of all the things, I don't see you on a basketball court after I've seen that mean streak of you in a squared circle. What were you thinking? Did you have a game?
I'm a point guard, Jack. I'm a point guard. You can try to take me down if you want to, but I might make your knees explode. That's what I tell everybody. They all look at me. We used to go to the courts, and our practice sometimes would come on the on the park courts. So we'd go there, and it was about like I said, it was a small town, but it was about four of us, and we walk on the courts, and the same guys would be running the courts. They'd see 5'10" of me running the ball, and they'd laugh at us, and we'd play zone defense and all that stuff. And so they thought we were just these little kids trying to play around. But Jack, we had some chemistry on that court, and I'll tell you what, I was 260 pounds then too, 5'10", 260, and I was running up and down that court faster than anybody at $180.
But here's the thing, in coming up in competitive athletics, through the high school or collegiate level, man, you're out there to win. And when I watch you guys wrestle, you're out there for a damn win, and you guys got the belts back. And so, to me, everything's got to look like a shoot, and that's the style that you guys have. Highly effective, great teamwork, and exciting to watch. Just basic fundamental tag team wrestling, and it's a lost art. Coming up from back in the day, Dash, who were some of your favorite tag teams that influenced you, or just you say, hey, man, these guys are badass. I dig what they're doing.
Oh, time to blow a little smoke back. But Hollywood Blondes, they were I hated you guys. I hated you until I wasn't supposed to anymore. Then I loved you guys. I was the ultimate fan. You could, whenever it was time to flip, I did it for you. But they were... You guys were one of my favorite teams to watch. Of course, the Brainbusters, Midnight Express, Rock and Roll Express. Because Midnights and Rock and Roll, that's what my granny watched more than anything. So those were two of the teams that I could just watch all day, every day. I mean, even the Steiner Brothers, any team that was around back then, there was something for everybody, and I was into all of them. There wasn't, even though I'll never be the size of the Road Warriors, they were so fascinating to watch because they're just so impressive and so huge, and it's oh my God, but you can learn from them also.
You can learn from them. They were kind of game changers because of their size, and then when they go into that no-sell mode, I mean, one of the biggest tag teams in the history of the business. Scott, coming up from that country that you're talking about, and with George South, some of those guys in your head, I'm expecting to hear some of the same names, but even some older school names there out of the NWA territory. Talk to me about some of your influences.
Well, I mean, as a kid, your taste changes when you get a little older. As a kid, man, I loved the Bulldogs. I loved the Hart Foundation. And obviously I was a huge Rock and Roll Express fan. But, and then moving on into the 90s even though they weren't the nicest guys, I loved Harlem Heat too. I thought that their teamwork, you could tell they were brothers, but I thought their teamwork was incredible. Fast forwarding to 2016, I got 2 huge books of DVDs that you wouldn't believe because I'm such a huge wrestling nerd, and about 7 discs of bootleg Hollywood Blondes. I got about 10 discs of Arn and Tully. But my favorite team of all time, there ain't no question, is Dennis and Bobby. I thought, and look, Dennis and Stan get all this praise, Bobby and Stan get all this praise because they did all these fascinating matches and had 5-star classics, and they were great matches, and I love those guys too. But as a tag team and as a unit, trying to get heat, I don't know if there's anybody better than Dennis and Bobby, man. They knew what each other was going to do, and they worked together to make sure that their heat was set and that Babyface was going to make a fiery comeback. And if they somehow Babyface slipped on a banana peel or the Midnights put the banana peel there and made sure they got the cover, they were going to get some heat off of it. But if those Babyfaces were going to go over, man, they were going to make them the most over act in that territory. So I don't know if anybody's better than Bobby and Dennis.
And, I liked Loverboy Dennis Condrey and Bobby Eaton was premier. And then when they brought Stan in. And the thing about it is, Dennis gets forgot a lot just because, he faded out and he just kind of left the scene for a while. And I don't know the reason. I've talked to Jim Cornette many times about that. But, yeah, you talk about basics. But, Dash, you brought up the Brainbusters. I go back, as much as I love the Midnight Express, and they're one of my favorite tag teams of all time, and you guys already said rock and roll. You guys could tear the house down with the Rock and Roll Express.
I'm trying to politic the Hunter right now to get the Rock and Roll Express and NXT for us.
I'm telling you what, if you guys could have some matches with those guys, I mean,
they can still go.
You damn right they can. Go. But those guys, they put asses in seats. But when I look at some of my favorite tag teams, I throw the Rockers in there, and that was some different kind of work. But those guys were a little bit ahead of their time. And of course, Sean had a phenomenal single run that he had. But man, you guys kind of remind me, because you're saying Arn Tully. Dude, I got to go back Arn Ole, because Arn and Ole was kind of the strong man of the team, just that big boxy bully. You kind of work like a bully. He, kind of hard to get him to sell, but when you did, he'd sell for you. And Ricky Morton's got some good stories about that. And then Arn would come in to light it up a little bit, put some movement in the match, bam, maybe set up something for the heat. And then Ole was kind of that heater. So I just really like that Ole-Arn connection. And again, Tully and Arn were great as a Brainbuster. but going back to that gritty NWA style, I dug those two together. When you look at the tag team situation right now down in NXT, man, I'm not trying to put any heat on you guys, but there's a bunch of good teams down there. And what are your thoughts? Why do you think on the main roster, tag team wrestling has seemingly it's coming back now, but for a while, with Davey and Dynamite back in the day, with the Hart Foundation, there's been with Action Smash, there's been great tag teams there, and the Rockers came in, but for a while it kind of died down. And it seems like it's being reinvigorated in NXT, and I love that. Don't you feel like for a while there it died down on the main roster?
I agree, and I have a theory on that. I think that, like, rock and rolls and, like you said, the Bulldogs and stuff, they knew that they had some sort of shortcoming in their game, whether it was their size or their body or couldn't talk or whatever it was. And so you got paid, and you know this too. At the time, they got paid by what position they were in the card and what kind of effect they had on the shows. So, Ricky and Robert are talking to each other, and they're saying, hey, man, we got to work together and make sure that we tear the house down so we can make this much money. So they knew their place, and they knew they needed to work together. And in comes, a few years later, 10 years later, here comes guaranteed contracts. So you're getting paid either way. And now I think that, and I could be completely wrong, but I think that people might have got a little when the contract came around, got a little comfortable or got a little selfish maybe and realized, hey, I'm getting paid, so I'm just going to get my stuff in and make sure I look like $1 million. That's my theory on it. As far as NXT goes, me and Dash, as soon as he came in, and I knew he was coming in, we talked for a while. As soon as he came in, I said, hey, man, look, they don't have a clue what to do with me. I'm not the kind of guy that they would want to invest a lot of TV time in and a lot of money in. But
this was in a singles row, correct?
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But with you coming in, man, we can do something special because we know each other and we respect each other. I said, if they put us as a tag team, which was the plan, if they put us as a tag team, look, everything we're going to do is as a unit. I mean, we're going to stop the baby faces as a unit. We're going to bump and feed as a unit. We're going to hit our moves as a unit. It ain't about me. It ain't about you. It's about us and how we can make this match and make ourselves as a team more valuable to the company. And I think at a certain time that got lost for whatever reason, whether my theory is completely wrong or not. I think it got lost.
Yeah, I think that there wasn't the longevity that there was back in the 80s and the 90s. Like, you had teams that were lifelong tag teams. Like, you see Arn and Tully, like, they were tagging for years. Same with the Hart Foundation. Same with Rock and Roll. Same with Midnights. They were up and down the roads for decades. Like, they stayed together, so they knew each other. They knew how to, like Scott said, complement each other, how to play off each other, how to work together. And nowadays, I felt like for a while there, like, the last great tag team period was when the Hardys, the Dudleys, and Edge and Christian were around. That's because those guys all wanted to work together to have the best tag team match they could, and not just, what's going to make me look the best?
Yeah.
How am I going to stand out here? It's how can we all have the best match and add the most to the show, and that way we can all elevate each other together.
Yeah. And that's so important to me is to put the time and the years in, because you can have two great singles workers. Here's a classic case in point. My favorite pro wrestler of all time is Ric Flair. You could put him in a tag match with Arn Anderson or anybody. And they could have some good tag matches, don't get me wrong, because Ric Flair can work his ass off and he can make a broomstick look good. Yeah, but, at the end of the day, you don't have the intricacies or the high-level stuff which you guys were doing in the last pay-per-view match, because they're not truly a team. And to be a team, I mean, you have, just like you just laid it out, Scott, you're thinking as a team. It's we. It's not me. It's not you. It's we. And I think that's a big part of it. And I'm glad that the tag team situation is going as good as it is right now. When you guys were out there just this past week or so ago, as we speak, and when this podcast drops on Tuesday, when you guys went out to Brooklyn facing Gargano and Ciampa, when you first locked up, long tie-up, good stuff, I'm thinking, okay, man, what's going on here? What are these guys going to do? That crowd, you worked them. You let them bite in, and you had them hook, line, and sinker for pretty much the whole damn ride. And when you knew you had them, because they give you a lot of time for that match, and you had them with all the teamwork, pulling that ref, 2 missed hot tag opportunities, all the other stuff that you did, the leg on the rope for the false finish, Premier, great timing. Were you guys just in heaven? Because there's just some nights when you go out there and you're in a zone, much to like when I was in 13 with Brett or 17 with Rock, and you just know if for some reason it's your night and things work out like they do with that crowd, because that can be a difficult crowd.
Oh yeah. It was emotional. I mean, I hate a guy from North Carolina who claims to be the salt of the earth saying it's emotional, but it wasn't emotional. I mean,
it is. Make no mistake about it. Yeah. If you ain't emotionally invested, why should they be emotionally invested? Keep going.
Exactly. It's 22 minutes of goosebumps, as I like to call it. So, yeah, as soon as we locked up, man, which is my favorite part of a match. My favorite part of a match, and not the false finishes, not the big moves, not the dives off the top. My favorite part of the match is a lockup, because I'm going to tell you whether I am invested in the match or not. And when I locked up with him and backed him to the corner and we wrestled around a little bit and shoved each other in the face, and not, none of this stuff is we talk in the back and say we're going to do this. You know what I mean? It just happens. But we were getting gritty and raw, and actually, I want to back up a little bit. I don't know if you saw
I was going to touch on that,
the entrance, but we were coming down the ramp, and it's our time to shine. You know what I mean? It's the Revival's time to get some stuff in. The camera's on us, and we look up, and Tommaso's standing in our corner, and Johnny Gargano's got his head sticking out through our rope. And I looked at Dash, and I said, "I'm taking him down." I climbed up the damn steps. I gut pushed him. He fell off. I shoved Gargano in the face to let him know that it's on.
And when he did that, you could hear the crowd reacted to it.
Like,
there was a gasp, like, oh man, these guys they're already off to the races.
So right then I knew right then that we they were going to bite to what we wanted to feed them. You know what I mean?
Yeah. There's those times, like you said, where you just know, and like as soon as the push happened, and you heard the crowd, like the collective intake of the air, like. Like I just felt like everything was already going to start clicking. Like it was going to be the night.
And there's a thing. There's a tricky little thing there. When people think, oh, the entrance don't mean nothing. You just walk into the ring. No, BS. The entrance means anything. Whether it's my BMF walk or you guys coming in and saying, hey, as a babyface team, if they're crowding your territory, your home corner, what you guys did. If you don't set the tone, or if you're scared to set the tone, or hey, this wasn't planned, I can't do it. No.
Yeah,
you got to. If they ain't showing you respect, you've got to get respect.
And just like kind of like you said, it is a respect factor, but it's a respect factor outside the ring and inside the ring. The fans bid on it, man, and I knew going into it, like that's how we're gonna. When I was walking down the ramp and I saw them standing there, I was like, hell yeah, this is exactly what we need. They're standing up to us, and we're gonna stand right back up to them. And people can emotionally understand that, whether it's they're standing up to their boss or to a bully, they can connect with that. They can connect with someone having some sort of altercation. You know what I mean?
Where do you guys, and let me say this, man, as I say this, you guys are talking to me from the Performance Center, I imagine, because there's a badass Stone Cold Steve Austin poster behind you. There's a Shawn Michaels poster behind Dash. You're all obviously got some great figures there. But what I want to talk about, when you go into a match like that, you guys sold that place out. That was 3 badass nights of business for the WWE to sell out NXT, SummerSlam, then Monday Night Raw. But the point I'm making here is, man, when you're as emotionally invested as you were, Scott, and you, Dash, as well, and you're not trying to be a sissy when you say that, dude, it's true.
Yeah.
Because the business is a work. But as Stone Cold Steve Austin, when that glass broke, mister, just right before it broke, because I didn't have no fancy warm-up, I poured water over my head and on my arms so I didn't look ashy, and then I went out to the ring. And when you walk into the ring, you're sending out a message to whoever you're about to do business with that I'm bringing it and I'm coming to whip your ass. You guys do the same thing. It's serious business, and it is real.
Yeah, it
doesn't work. Hey, whatever. It's an action adventure movie. We're going to take you on ups and downs. We're going to get some heat. They're going, but it's real.
Yeah.
And if it ain't, you're missing something. Because one of the things that gets me that I like about you guys is You are professional wrestlers or sports entertainers, whatever they want to call it. You're not trying to be. And there's a difference between being a wrestler and trying to be a wrestler, because the reality is those are the people that get over, those are the people that move the needle, those are the people that get the crowd emotionally invested. That's when they buy in, and that's when 3/4 through y'all's match, you're getting "This is awesome" chant. They're clapping, they're trying to bring those baby faces up. I thought you guys were going to go for a double set of heat, and then you didn't. Finally got that hot tag and blew the roof off the building. My point is, when you guys go out there, I believe in your minds, it's as real as it was to me.
Oh, to us, like, it's completely 100% real. Like, Scott will tell you the same thing. Anybody you talk to that's talked to us will tell you the same thing. We both work with chips on our shoulders. Like, we weren't supposed to be where we're at. We're not supposed to be the 2-time NXT champions. We're not supposed to be in Brooklyn at SummerSlam weekend, like, having the matches that we have. When we came here, there was no, like Scott said, they didn't know what to do with him. Like, he was coming back from an ACL injury. I was just coming in. Nobody knew exactly what I could do. So, like, they didn't have these elaborate plans laid out for us. We didn't have this huge hype and build up and debut. It was just, okay, go do what you guys do. So we started doing live events and just having the best matches we could. And, like, it shows, I think. We have that mentality where we're going to go out there and we're going to work as hard as we possibly can, be the best tag team we can. And somebody tweeted me earlier that it was last weekend, the same weekend of the takeover, was 1 year to the day that we had our first television victory. So, like, we've been here for 2.5 years. He's been here longer than that, and, like, that was our first victory together a year ago. And since then, like, we've taken that chip and just ran with it.
And I think that's the main thing, is the chip on our shoulder. Listen, everybody that comes in here, we got an enormous amount of respect for them, whether they come from the indies, whether they come from modeling or football. I got a ton of respect for them. But we were here for almost 2 years together, watching guys get passed over us, you know what I mean? Like, they would take other guys and do something with them, or people would come in and get an immediate opportunity, and that made our chip even bigger. So we were getting weighed down a little bit, but they kept giving us the ball at these house shows, at these live events, and they'd say, "All right, go out there for 10 minutes." Well, we'd kind of finagle it a bit, and we'd get 12 minutes, and then we'd do 15 minutes, and then we'd do 20, and in front of 200 people, they're screaming at the top of their lungs. And when the coaches are writing our reports, they can't leave that out. They got to say, "Hey, man, these guys are tearing it up." So they finally, like you said, a year ago, gave us that opportunity to see what we can do. And it's been a slow burn, but we finally got to where we wanted to go. And I believe it's because of chips on our shoulder, and we ain't going to let nobody, take our spot. We're just here to grab a spot. And, I don't want to sound like a jerk, but if we got to knock you off, we got to knock you off.
No, but I appreciate what you're saying there, because you both had the wherewithal, the gumption, or the guts to push for yourself, to lobby for yourself. You got to go about the right way. But if you ain't pushing for yourself, if you're going to let yourself get lost in the shuffle, if you don't believe in yourself, ain't nobody just going to look at you two guys and say, "Hey, man, I think these guys can be our tag team champions." No, you worked for it, and you paid your dues. Tell me about Dash. Scott was already in Performance Center. He's nursing a bum knee. You guys are, give or take, 5'10". Y'all clocking in, I think that said 466, 467 pounds on the match the other night. When you come in, Dash, Scott, he's injured. What's the feeling? Was it a little bit intimidating? Because a lot of the guys they're recruiting are upper echelon guys from AAU backgrounds, football backgrounds, maybe not good enough to play pro football, but damn good athletes with backgrounds that could parlay into a professional wrestling career. Were you nervous, trepidatious? What was your feeling? Were you insecure, or just go through it?
I was ready for it. I just didn't know what to expect. Like, you hear stories from people that have been here or were here and left. So you don't really know what to expect, what you're getting yourself into. But like I knew me and Scott were going to be a tag team. Like that was the plan from the get-go. They told us we want to try this out, see how it goes. So I knew he was almost back from his ACL injury. I was coming in, and even though I wasn't like I wasn't like a big-time independent name, like the coaches knew what I could do. So I was just ready to get down here and show them what we could do together. And so I was here for maybe a month in ring, kind of getting acclimated and everything. And Scott was a huge help with that, because it's a huge change coming from where I came from to here. Like, the rules are different, the structure's different, everything's just levels above anything I've ever done. So he helped me get acclimated to that, get ready for it. And his first match back from his ACL injury was my first match here, period. So like having him here, like it made it so much easier to kind of like jump right in. Like there wasn't as much like nervousness as you'd think there would be. It wasn't as like trepidatious. I was just like, okay, like this is our time. We're going at it. He's coming back. Let's just do this. Let's head first.
Scott, what was your confidence level coming off that ACL injury? I've had my share of knee injuries. When you go down in flames, all of a sudden you've got the injury. Did you think, oh no, now they're just going to throw them in the trash can? They're going to get rid of me. I'm hurt. They took good care of you. You had good medical.
Oh yeah, they took incredible care of me. They made sure that I was fully healed. We got some world class doctors we deal with, and we got some world class physical therapists here at the Performance Center. And I use that word 3 times. We got a world class facility here to make sure that we're in the best shape we possibly can be. When I come off my ACL injury and got back in the ring, my confidence as far as my skills go, they never wane. I knew how good I was. That never bothered me. My confidence with my knee took some time to get over that. My confidence in the creative to find something to do with me, that's where I was worried a bit. Just because I know what I look like. I know what I am. I know I'm a Southern guy, so it's a lot harder for me to fit into that mold for the WWE. So I was a little nervous coming into there, or going into that, and it took some time. But I knew what Dash and myself could do, and we kept proving it to the coaches. We proved it to the creative, and then we proved it to the fans too. So I guess I had a little bit of nervousness coming back, hoping they'd do something with me. But just like you said, man, and you've said it for so many years, you gotta ring some doorbells. You gotta make some noise, because if you don't, they can find any 5'10" guy to come in here and take a tag team belt.
Hey, let me ask you a question, though. When you say ringing that bell, or you say try to get noticed, try to get some attention, so many guys, and I remember this back in the days when I was breaking in Dallas, Texas, sometimes we'd wrestle at some Chevrolet dealerships, and we'd fight outside the ring. Of course, there wasn't no padding. Chris Adams gave me a suplex on the pavement. I was doing stupid bumps, nothing crazy risky, but here's the question. When you see so many guys that are trying so hard with all these high-risk moves to get noticed, and I can understand that mindset 100% because I've been there many years ago. Where do you guys draw the line as far as the risk factor? Because as you say, no flips, just fists. Where do you draw the line at? Okay, that's too high risk. That's not our MO. That's not how we work. This is what we do. And I love your formula. I don't expect you to change it because what you're doing is highly effective. Where do you draw the line?
I don't know. I don't think we've ever thought about where we draw the line or what we're going to do to draw the line. But the good thing about Dash and myself is I feel like we know exactly who we are. And I feel like we know exactly what we can do and what we're supposed to do. When I saw Stunning Steve Austin, I expected to see tackle, drop down, leapfrog, arm drag, drop kick, hold the arm. I expected to see that. But when I saw Stone Cold Steve Austin in 1998, I didn't expect to see that. You knew each character. You knew what they were going to do, who they were. And I feel like Dash and I are the same way, not comparing ourselves to old Stone Cold, but I think we know the motto, no flips, just fists. If we work outside of that realm, we even had an idea to do a tag move in Brooklyn. I don't want to say it was too high risk, but it was a little too flashy for us. And we debated about it, and we said, well, we're in front of 16,000 people. Vince McMahon's in the back watching right now. We might want to try it out. And finally, we looked at each other, and we were like, no. Scott Dawson and Dash Wilder wouldn't do it, so don't do it. Let's stick to the basics. Let's stick to what looks effective. Let's beat the hell out of these guys. Let's get a nice comeback, and we'll see how the fans bite on that. So, again, going back to your point, I don't know if we have an actual line that we're drawing, but we know who we are, we know what we'll do, and we work inside those confines. But
let me just say this, and because when you look at some of the top guys in the last few years, take me back in the day. Hell, I don't know if I had 3 moves. I kick in the gut, I hit you with the right hand, and a stunner. My moveset was very limited. I look at some of the great things that a Samoa Joe can do at his size. It was amazing. It's all safe. He does not take any high-risk stuff. But you're like Flair. I mean, Flair was a working son of a gun. He always knew when to hit the gas pedal, back off, get some heat. hope spots, and then back to more heat. When you look at Hulk Hogan, when you look at Bret Hart, Shawn Michaels could do everything, but they didn't. The top people, some of the top draws in the history of the business, didn't do anything crazy. They told good stories. Their character was so dynamic, off the charts. Look at Bret the Grinder, Hulk Hogan. Whenever you think about his style, Hogan knew how to work the people, and he knew how to work, and his character was over. So my point is, to anybody that's listening to this podcast and watching you guys work, if you just stick to the basics work. When I came into the WWE back in '95, Sergeant Slaughter, Jerry Briscoe, George Animal Steel, Blackjack Lanza, Pat Patterson, those guys would tell me, I was working a very physical style that you could not see through. And Ringmaster was a bad gimmick, but they kept telling me, they'd come back to me and they'd say, you know what? He goes, Steve, it's going to take you longer to get over, but when you get over, you'll stay over just due to the fact of the way I worked. And that I like what you guys are doing. So when you say you don't know whether there's a line that you actually draw, when you're just doing the physical, great work that you are, concentrating and focusing on a body part with logic and strong psychology, and then the nuances of the tag team, manipulating the ref, missing a couple of hot tags, those babies fighting for that damn tag, the way Ciampa, Gargano did, Team American Alpha did in the 2 out of 3 falls match. To me, that's what sells tickets, and that's what puts asses in seats. That's what draws my interest as a guy who's been a fan of this business since I was 7 years old. So going back to you guys' recent pay-per-view match, if y'all stick to that, y'all are going to be money for as long as you want to run.
Yeah. I think our main goal, is to get reactions based on the emotions of the people as opposed to reactions based off oohs and ahs. Yeah. I would much rather them be reacting because they're pissed off at us or because they love the other guys as opposed to something they could see in the Olympics. I don't want them to think to only be trained to react to what we do if it's something that's amazing, as far as athletic ability and top rope, like you said, risk, stuff like that. I want them to watch our match and be on the edge of their seat, watching to see are these guys going to lose finally? Or are they going to steal another one? What are they going to do? I can't handle it. I'm gonna have a heart attack.
Yeah. Go ahead, Scott.
And going off what he said, how many people know what a Frankensteiner feels like? You know what I mean? How many people know what a Hurricane Rana feels like, or even a drop kick, for example? Nobody knows what that feels like, but they know what frustration feels like. They know what pain feels like. They know what hard work feels like. So if we make our baby faces look as good as possible, and these people can, if they think, oh, look at these guys, they're taking a powder again, they ain't got to do that. They don't have to do that. Stay in the ring. If they see us taking these powders, even if they're the smartest of the smart fans, in the back of their mind, they're going to say, oh God, these guys, come on, guys, let's get it going. You don't have to pull Dash's hand. You don't have to do that. If I can get them invested emotionally, and if they can say for 1 second, if they can say, oh, he didn't have to do that, I got him. Yeah, I got them right there because they know what that frustration, they know what pain and sorrow and happy and sad feels like. They know what that feels like. If we base our matches around emotions and not high spots and not moves, we got them.
We try to do as much things that we don't have to do, but it's not illegal, that makes people hate us. Like when he pushes them back to the corner, we'll tag, and I'll climb up on the rope on the outside. And this is legal because we have 5 seconds. And he just starts welling away on them, and I start hammering down on him. It's legal, but it's a terrible thing to do. We don't have to do that. We already have the advantage. Why are you going to take advantage of it? Right. But the people see that, and it pisses them off because we're taking advantage of what we have. We're within the rules, but we're dirty about it.
One of the things I like, and let's move on from the match, but let's talk about going into the finish. I guess it was a distraction. I think, Scott, you rolled out because Dash, wasn't that you with the rear knee clip on Gargano?
Yes.
Okay, and then Scott basically was legal man or tag back in, reverse figure 4. Man, he's had about all he could take, and he's finally got a tap out. You guys retain the belts. There was real heat off that finish. I haven't felt real heat in a long-ass time. Props for that. Did you feel it?
Oh, yeah, definitely. And you know what? Another time we felt, and man, if you ask anybody here at the Performance Center, I'll blow smoke all day up my own butt. But hey, I felt it too on that false hot tag when when Dash fell into the ring. They got that hot tag and the referee stopped him. The fans have been conditioned to see that and they know what it is. But right there, they were hot about that. Man.
Well, they were because Gargano blew in with a ton of steam. Referee, perfect time. And again, shout out to the referee. He worked a damn good match. I think it's the same guy on American Alpha, but he was always in the right place at the right time. You drew him in, you positioned him right. The timing was impeccable. He never had any egg on his face. The heat never went to him. The heat went to you guys.
Yeah, and another thing, I don't think Dash and I mind making ourselves look silly for the good of the match. And I don't mean being a comedy act. I mean falling on our ass. You know what I mean?
We're not too cool for it.
Yeah, we're not too cool for that. We don't have to worry about our character wouldn't do that, or we're that'll make us look stupid.
The Steve Austin Show. The Steve Austin Show.
How are you guys enjoying spending time on the road now that you've paid as many dues as you have? You've been on the road at a lower level. No disrespect, that's just in the formative years. Now, hey man, you're at NXT. You guys are selling out arenas. How exciting is that for you guys?
Yeah, it's incredible. And this is the dream. This is what we wanted to do for our whole life is travel around, work out, eat, and wrestle. So we're not on the road as much as the cats on Raw and SmackDown are, but we get out quite a bit. Almost every single weekend we're out on the road. More often than not, and we're doing these live events overseas, and they're drawing some good houses there. So it's the dream come true. Obviously, the ultimate goal is to get to Raw or SmackDown and then headline WrestleMania and do all that stuff, and that is the plan, and that's what we will do. But for now, we're having fun here at NXT, making it a brand, making it the hottest brand in sports entertainment, alongside guys like Samoa Joe and Shinsuke Nakamura, and with the help of American Alpha and Finn Balor and Bayley and Hunter at the helm of it. It's fun right now to make this brand mean something. It's fun to be a part of something so special.
Well, I think it is special, and I enjoy the flavor. I enjoy the vibe. I enjoy the pacing of it. And it seems like you guys got a lot of freedom down there. Scott was just talking, Dash, talk to me or talk to us about a day in the life. If you're not on the road, I know you guys have television taping. Tomorrow, as we speak, is going to be Thursday. So you'll have television taping. But what is a basic day for you guys? If you're not in Carolina, you're at the Performance Center as far as, working in the ring, going through workouts on the weights. What is a day in the life for you guys?
Normally, if say it's a Monday or a Tuesday, you come in, there's different groups. So there's different classes. There's about 10 to 12 people in each one. So like me and Scott and a few others are in a class, and we come in the mornings, and first things we do is we go into the gym and we have our strength coach session where we get a great workout. The strength coach here is unbelievable. Like he's the one you actually he does the Stone Cold impression, the really good Stone Cold impression.
That was awesome.
That's him. A great guy. He worked for the Texans for a little bit, and now he's here, and he trains us like not only to look the best that we can, but also like to avoid injuries or to rehab if there's any nagging injuries. So like he trains each person to what they need. So that's great. And then there'll be a little bit of a break where then you come down and you do 3 hours in ring. So you stretch out, you roll out a little bit, then you guys just kind of you do some stuff, you just wrestle around, get a feel, and then you can have like brainstorming sessions where you can come up with ideas and try to bounce things off each other, see what sticks, see what doesn't work for you. And so you just get it's a really good way to get a bunch of different opinions and a bunch of different flavors and find out what works for you. And some days we have just the skull session where we'll come in and we'll just watch tape, whether it's our matches from the previous weekend or you pull up a classic on the network. So you watch it again with your group and with your coach, and you just break it down bit by bit,
Which coach will be working with you guys? Because I know Matt Bloom's kind of the head coach over there right now. So do you guys have different specific coaches for whether it's a tag or a single?
Yeah, we have. Well, they're broke down into different categories, I guess. So we've got some beginners, we've got some intermediate and experienced and stuff like that. Right now, we're going through a transition period because we've got the brand split. So some of our coaches may be getting called up to that main roster soon. So right now, head coach Matt Bloom is taking our class. He's taking our class. We have him and Terry Taylor as the two guys that are the main coaches here. And Matt Bloom, he didn't get as much success here in the States as he probably should have, and he didn't get as much success as he had got in Japan. But, man, he's a wealth of knowledge, and he's changed the whole atmosphere of this place.
Yeah, the vibe that he brought in and the way he just kind of brought everybody up it's unbelievable because now, everybody interacts and has ideas for each other and helps each other out, and it's like everybody just wants everybody to succeed, and that's contagious. Everybody that comes in now and they're welcomed in, and then immediately you start trying to think of ways you can help people and make sure that their transition here is a success. So
when you guys are down there, are they feeding you guys and housing you? How does that work?
We take care of our own housing and our own food and stuff like that. If we are here for, say, a few hours, you know what I mean, where we don't have access to food, then make sure to take care of us and feed us and give us whatever we need to go through the day. But as far as that goes, it's just like any other job, where we're taking care of ourselves and making sure we have a place to stay and a roof over our head and stuff like
the
that.
Performance Center is pretty much a full-time job. Everybody lives in Orlando, so I mean, you come in and you do your hours like you would a 9 to 5. So some of the guys, when they go up, they get to move home and do whatever else. But if you're at the Performance Center, then you live in Orlando. So, I mean, that's your day-to-day. Yeah. So, you have your own home. You buy your own groceries. You have, your family down here. It's whatever you would do normally.
Hey, what have you guys thought about? I've just finished watching you guys' match, and then I clicked forward in the pay-per-view. I was getting ready for this podcast, but I saw just a few moments of Asuka versus Bayley, and I'm really high on both gals. I didn't see the entirety of the match. I saw about the last 4 minutes going into the finish, and, man, those girls were giving it everything they had. And I know they had some, Sasha, Charlotte, Becky Lynch, a few of the other women were out in the crowd watching this event. Speak about the women's wrestling, because, man, you talk about, I love women's wrestling when it's great women's wrestling, and they have really raised the bar with all those fantastic women down there, because those chicks are going for it, man. That's pro wrestling.
Yeah. You talk about somebody who's got a chip on their shoulder, man. That's them girls. They got a big old chip on their shoulder. Actually, before we start this podcast, when your modem was messing up, Bailey stood in here for about 20 minutes. She wanted to say hi to you, but she dipped out and left.
Got nervous.
Yeah, she got nervous. But man, Asuka and Bailey, that match was so physical and so emotionally draining too. Those girls worked their butts off, and then the next night, in my opinion, SummerSlam was a great card, but in my opinion, Sasha and Charlotte stole that show from underneath every guy's feet, man. That was a great match.
I really thought I loved AJ Cena, because that was a hell of a damn match. And the other ones, I thought that their crowd would be a little bit more involved in those matches than they were. The thing about the Charlotte-Sasha match that I like so much, there was a few botches in there, a little blown spot here or there, but towards the end, it was the emotional part of Charlotte. Just she won't be in the shadow of Ric Flair, because I think she's his daughter, and she'll form her own legacy. Man, you talk about genetics or having that greatness born into her, and obviously she works her tail off, but when she started just kind of pushing Sasha around saying, I'm better than you, and it's like, holy smokes, I mean, that, talk about that emotional level when we started, Scott and Dash, that's what grabbed me, and because it was real. You can blow, it tickles, tackles, a little sequence, misstep or whatever. But when you grab those people, and a couple of high-risk moves in there that really scared me as far as Sasha goes. I was invested in that match because those women told me a story, because that belt meant everything to both of them, and it does for a shoot, just like your belts mean to you. When it's real, It's real, man.
Yeah.
Hey, it's a show. You buy tickets, come in, and when you come in, you want to come in under the auspice of, this is why I'm here. I want to get in the show. And there was times back in the day, sometimes, if you work in the garden or some house that could have the potential to be kind of hard, sometimes you're waiting on a certain match to come on. But then all of a sudden, it's like, hey, man, this is the real stuff.
Yeah.
I believe in heart, and I believe in the reality of the product. If you're giving them something real, if you're giving them emotion, they will buy in.
Exactly. All these girls we have down here, like a lot of them are up there now, but they go for it every time they're in the ring. Like they're not phoning it in. They're not just trying to coast off like the reputation that the division has now. Like they are changing the division, and like they're not just good good wrestlers for women. They are just good wrestlers.
Period. Yeah.
Like
and Charlotte may be one of the top 3 athletes we got in the whole company. Man, she's incredible.
Oh, I believe that. But if you go back to last year, I guess it was probably at Brooklyn as well. But it was the whatever pay-per-view it was when Bailey was working with Sasha, and Bailey had the hurt hand, and Sasha started banging it on that staircase, and then she ripped it off, and then she smushed it between the stairs and the ring, and she went after that body part. Those girls ripped the roof off the building that night, going into that bank statement, kicking off those ropes, rolling back into the other thing. It's just at a very, very high level. I just wanted to mention the women real quick because I know you guys down at NXT, and tell Bailey I said hi because I'm such a big fan of hers.
You're gonna make her blush.
Before I let you guys go, I got to shave all this trash off my face and go hit a meeting, and I appreciate your patience. I turned my phone into a hotspot because my internet is truly down over here, and this was an opportunity for me to talk to the Revival, probably my favorite, without a doubt, my favorite tag team going right now.
Give me goosebumps.
Scott Dawson and Dash Wilder, but I got a few notes on you guys, and I wanted to understand, before we leave off on a light note, your love of coffee.
Yeah. We got it right here, Jack.
There it is.
All day, every day. Caffeine. I mean, it gets such a bad rep, but why? I mean, it makes you feel good. I wake up in the morning. I have my coffee pot set for 6:30 in the morning. I wake up. I take my first swig of coffee, and I get a euphoric feeling. Why don't I want to feel that feeling all damn day? It's because of coffee. We live and die by coffee, and that's okay with me.
I make a pot when I wake up in the morning, and then I stop at Starbucks on my way into work in the morning.
Yeah.
Like just because it's my routine and it makes me happy. Like it feels good to have this cup.
Yeah, if you got any connections, Folgers, Maxwell House, off brand, give me a call, Jack, because I will promote you.
We'll mention all you guys.
Yeah. Man, I don't have any coffee connections, but I tell you what, man, I got out of bed this morning. I was looking forward to talking to you guys. I had my standard 2 big ass cups, and then all of a sudden the crap hits the fan. I got no internet. You guys get delayed 45 minutes. We get on with Time Warner. They got to send a technician tomorrow, and then we call AT&T, and right over the phone I changed my plan, whatever my minute plan is, so I can make this thing a hotspot, and that's how I was able to talk to you. Then I had my complimentary Diet Red Bull to follow that up, and then on top of being mad because I was frustrated that this conversation might not happen because I'm booked up and you guys are too, I was really amped up and ready to go. Was there anything that we talked about that we didn't talk about that you want to bring up before we sign off?
Oh, yeah, there is one thing I want to talk about. We talked about us enough. I want to talk about you just a second.
I got something I need to get off my chest also.
So there was a match, all right? Well, let me back up. We had our match in Brooklyn, and there's a moment in the match you probably don't even know. Nobody probably knows besides me. I bent over and some sweat ran off my nose, okay? Just ran off the tip of my nose. And that made me realize when I watched it back, hell yeah, we got a good match. There's a match 22 years ago to the day that you had my favorite WCW match of all time. You versus, and I tell everybody here at the Performance Center, I'm always watching this match. You versus Ricky Steamboat, Clash of the Champions, 22 years ago today. You guys are battling it out on the top rope, man, and you're chugging away, you're slugging, you're hitting him, you're knocking him off. He falls off the rope, he comes back up, you knock him off again, finally get him done, and sweat drips off your nose. And that to me is professional wrestling, Jack. That is what wrestling's about. That's what a wrestler is. And I just want to let you know that match is one of my top 5 favorite matches of all time. But I want to know, because I'll never get an opportunity to, how was it working with Ricky Steamboat?
Man, you talk about awesome, unbelievable, a whole different animal than a Bret the Hitman Hart or Shawn Michaels. The thing I loved about Ricky Steamboat is, man, if I grabbed a headlock on him, he'd sit in that headlock for a second, he's going to top wrist out of it. You know, and if I wanted to take it over, well, I normally wouldn't, because I was a little bit bigger than him, so I wasn't going to let him overpower me. So quite simply, simply, all I'd do, just reach up, grab a handful of hair behind the ref's back, and use that to gain advantage over him. What I loved about Ricky Steamboat was he always filled in the gaps, just with the work that the other guy has to bring. You didn't have to tell him anything. A new one to fire up. If you had done something to him and let him sit enough, if you walked up to him, you might as well expect a couple of chops because he's going to. And if, crowd's coming, chop, 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 wham, I'm going to thumb him in the eye. So that was the thing I loved about Steamboat. And if you watch, if you think I had good matches with Ricky Steamboat, watch those Flair matches, some of those ones from 88, 90, the Stampede, Starcade, whatever they're called. Amazing. But those guys worked together, I don't know how many hundreds or thousands of times, but just magic in the ring. And I always tell people, like wrestling is like dancing. When you have that dance partner out there and people think these preconceptions or misconceptions about how our business works, but it really is like dancing. You might know 5 things that are going to happen in that match, or you might know everything. But when you have the creative freedom to go out there and ad lib a little bit, and those magic things happen, it's just one of those great nights at the office, like you guys just had with Gargano Ciampa out there in Brooklyn. And so with Steamboat, it was like that every night. I had a 30-minute Broadway with him over at the old Los Angeles Forum, which they just rebuilt, and it was a dark night, and we went 30 minutes to a Broadway, and there were no cameras there. It was just a house show. Business wasn't that great back then. There might have been 5,000 or 6,000 people, but that was one of my favorite matches I ever had with Ricky Steamboat. And they got a few of them on film. Those are pretty good. But that one that no one ever saw unless it was in that forum was the best one I ever had. Some of the best, he was an absolute dream to work with, if I can bottom line it for you.
It's a shame that some of the best matches ever will never see the light of day.
But that's okay. That's okay, because you know what? Some of those old bingo halls, some of those National Guard armories that I worked in back in Texas, that forum at night, or just those house shows. Man, when there ain't no cameras there, sometimes that's when the magic happens. And if you can remember that magic and recreate it, when a camera's there on a pay-per-view opportunity, sometimes guys are at the best when no cameras are there. So sometimes you can try too hard when a camera's there. Just let it flow, let it go, stick to your game plan, act like nothing's there. One thing I did, I don't know, Dash, if you had anything to say, but so many people will work these days for a hard camera. I never, in my whole run in WWE, worked for a hard camera, because my point was I got enough things to worry about or think about and have fun doing it, because I wasn't really thinking anything other than that match and listening to the people as far as what I wanted to do. But I figured, hey, man, Kevin Dunn, them guys are so good at covering this stuff. There's 6 to 8 cameras out there. Why I'm looking for a hard camera? If the dude's holding one out there in the corner on the apron and I happen to be pointing that direction, that's good enough for me. So I didn't worry about that stuff. Dash, did you have one thing to get in?
Yeah, grab your Kleenex for this one. It's okay. Yeah, this is a sad story. I don't care if it kind of ruins the reputation that we have or not. But the build up to WrestleMania 17, you and The Rock, the best video package build up of all time. Like, the anticipation for it was amazing. I didn't come, like I said, from a lot of money, so I saved up for as long as I could. And before the pay-per-view, I ordered the foam replica Smoking Skull belt and the camouflage Austin 316 hat. And I sat there on my couch and I watched WrestleMania with my hat on and my foam Smoking Skull title. And when you turn on The Rock and you join Vince, I've never been more heartbroken in my life. I threw my hat down on the floor, threw my title down on the floor, walked outside, and I didn't want anybody to see me because I was so heartbroken. But I sat out there for a little bit and I said to myself, you know what? He's still Stone Cold. I'm still going to cheer for him. So I went back in, picked up my stuff off the floor, I put it back on, and I still decided to cheer you no matter if you were heel or face.
But you know what? It goes back all those years, me doing that, and you taking your stuff off and having to walk outside and kind of regather yourself. It's emotion. And it goes back to the first part of this podcast when we were talking. And so if I was able to connect with you on that level and we connected and you were living vicariously through the stuff that I was doing, all of a sudden I took a wrong turn and that upset you, golly, that means that I was doing it the best I could. The storyline was the best it was. I was in there with the great one, the one and only Rock. And that package, that with Paul Heyman and Jim Ross narrating that thing, done to to Limp Bizkit, Chocolate Starfish, whatever it was, My Way, was just an unbelievable combination. And all the elements combined, all the stars aligned, and it was absolute magic. But it all goes back to reality, emotion, and belief, and the suspension of disbelief. That's what our business is about. I had a great time talking to you guys. I loved watching your matches last night. Again, like I said, I started smiling during that first round, and then I started laughing towards the end because I was enjoying things that I hadn't seen in a long-ass time. Then I watched the match with the American Alpha, and that was another one. Give all the guys that I just mentioned props, and tell that referee he was a damn good referee in those matches. He was there for you guys, and a lot of times a referee is a forgotten figure or forgotten man out there. If he's not enforcing the rules, if he's not in the right place at the right time, it can be an absolute clustermuck, and that guy was in the right place at the right time, and I think you guys know that, especially with as much attention to detail in a tag match, working with 4 guys rather than 2 in a single. He's got his work cut out for him to stay out of the way and be in the right place at the right time.
Yep. They get overlooked a lot, but man, we've got, I think, I hope I don't make anybody upset, but I think we got the best referees in the world down here, and they know what their job is, and they work hard for us to make sure that we look good and to make sure the match looks good. That referee in Brooklyn that night, Drake, he was on his game that night. You're right.
He was, but then again, it was the timing and the way you guys laid it out, and also it was Gargano and Ciampa being everybody, dude. 5 guys telling a story, and they told a damn good one. I enjoyed the hell out of it. Hey, guys, I look forward to seeing you in person again. I've been talking to Triple H one of these days about trying to get down there to Orlando and just talking to you cats and just seeing what everybody's doing out there and checking out the facility. Maybe that day will come soon. Until then, I think I got a chance to see you guys work part of a match down in Dallas last year for WrestleMania, wherever it was. Didn't get a chance to sit down and talk to you. But I look forward to y'all drink beer?
Steve, give us that IPA, Jack.
Yeah, bring us the El Segundo.
Okay. I look forward to seeing you guys. I'll bring the beer. We're not going to go crazy. We're just going to shoot the breeze, and we'll talk wrestling and drink some beer.
Sounds good. If you make it down here, I got an air mattress for you.
I've been on an air mattress before. Won't be my first one. Guys, I appreciate it. Best of luck to you. Keep doing what you're doing because it's working.
All right.
Thank you so much, Steve. I appreciate you having us on.
This has been a PodcastOne production. Download new episodes of The Steve Austin Show every Tuesday at PodcastOne.com. That's PodcastOne.com.
See what hit blockbusters are streaming free during Popcorn Summer Movies on Pluto TV. Watch the first 4 Indiana Jones movies, or Minari and Maid of Honor. Plus, Pluto TV has hundreds of channels with thousands more movies, available on live and on demand. Download Pluto TV on all your favorite devices for free. Pluto TV. Stream now, pay never.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are back. T-Pain's Nappy Boy Radio Podcast is back for our 2nd season. Bigger and better than ever. Seriously, though, this ish is huge. I'm your host, T-Pain. Every Tuesday, join me and my guest and my co-host for action-packed, hilarious, inspirational conversation. That's right, we're doing T-Pain Tuesdays. We got the biggest guests, new drinks, new games, and crazy studio vibes. You already know what it is, and here's Nappy Boy Radio, baby. Listen and subscribe to T-Pain's Nappy Boy Radio Podcast. Season 2 is available now everywhere you get your podcasts. You already know what it is. Come on through.